Joe,
Sir,
you want to hear a story?
I would like to hear a story.
Before we start our story, should we just probably tell everyone? Mason's on the phone with us. He's being a good dad, so it's Joe and I with our weird lighting in the apartment tonight. But anyway, story time. We have a new guy, 18 years old, just out of high school, that is working with us for the general contractor. So we've known it was probably our first day working with him. Oh no, second day working with him, sorry. And I call him over, we're working in the master bathroom, we're getting ready for drywall, so everything's stripped down to studs, and we're throwing out walls, which means we're attaching 2x4s to block walls so that the drywallers have something to screw to. So I call him over, I'm like, hey, come here. I'm like, alright, so right here I'm looking at, I need a 97-inch board. I only have a 96-inch 2x4. Now, we can either run to the store, grab a 10-footer and cut 23 inches off, or we can try and stretch the last inch out of it. So here's what I need you to do. I need you to run to the garage. There's that storage container we have. Look for a box that has a clamp on it and a lever. We're going to try and see if we can stretch an inch out of this board. And I told him, he's like, you should see in big red letterings on the side, it says Stretch Co. on it. He's like, all right, sounds good. So he leaves to go find this thing. Me and my coworker, Logan, are trying not to die laughing too loud. So he's gone for a good minute. He's looking hard. And then he comes back after a while, and he's like, hey, I found some storage, some Milwaukee storage containers. Could it be in there? I'm like, well, how big are they? So he gives me the rough dimensions with his hands or whatever. And then I'm like, well, it might be in there. Just go check and see if it's in there. So he leaves, and he's gone for a while, dying laughing at this point. And then he starts walking back across the job site with a Bulldog demo hammer, which is a mini roto hammer, and then a bottle jack for lifting houses. And I hear my supervisor go, what are you looking for? And he's like, I don't know, man. And just keeps walking quickly by him. And then, so he comes over. I'm like, no, dude, that's not it. You'll see it. It's about 8 inches by 6 inches. It's a square, and it'll have a handle on it. So he's like, all right. He goes back, and he's gone for probably 3 to 5 minutes at this point. So me and Logan, my coworker, are going, he is trying so hard. So I walk over there, and I walk into the garage, and I go, it's not in there? It was there a week ago. So I look in there, and pretending oh, man, it's not there. I'm like, go ask our supervisor if he took it home this weekend. So he goes up to him, he's like, hey, do we have a board stretcher here? And basically everyone gets clued into what's happening, new guy, board stretcher. So he goes, no, yeah, we don't have it. I'll have to run to Home Depot and get a new one. So I walk up to him right afterward and I go, dude, we're just fucking with you. He starts looking at all three of us as we have these huge grins on our faces. He's like, you guys are assholes.
Classic.
You should have made the wood stretching tool just a giant dildo.
Biggest phallic member you can imagine.
That's messed up.
Yeah. Well, there's another time I saw it happen. We were building out the Forefathers cheesesteaks here in Scottsdale, and there was a crew of electricians. They were all buddies, and they had one of their new friends on the crew, and so he's 30 years old, but he is inexperienced with just the electrical trade. So they're like, hey man, our wire run is just short. We need to go out to the truck, grab the wire stretcher. We're going to try and finish this thing off. So he goes, he's looking, he's like, I can't find it. They're like, dude, get out there. It's in the truck. So he's tearing this thing apart. I'm seeing him pull all kinds of tools out of it. And then he comes back and he's like, there's no fucking wire stretcher. And they all start dying laughing right there. And
Good old Hazen.
Classic.
yeah. All right, Mason, we know we only have you for a little bit, so besides seeing our wonderful faces this last week, what have you been up to?
yeah, unfortunately, I did have to see you guys twice that week because we came over and did some work on the house. But nothing exciting, you know. Just the same old stuff, you know. I got the single dad duties this week.
Yeah.
How's that going?
That'll be fun. So far, so good. They're still alive. So.
You remember to feed them and everything?
What was that?
You remembering to feed them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, they know how to feed themselves. Actually, a couple weeks ago, you guys ever seen those, like the thumbprint door locks?
Yeah, I have.
Yep, that came in today, installed it on the pantry door.
Nice.
Now they can't get in without thumbprint.
So if you die, they are going to starve to death. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's 100% my fault if they starve to death.
Yeah. Oh man, what a drag, dude. I'd be so mad if I couldn't get snacks as a kid.
Yeah, they have too many snacks, so they'll be okay.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. What about you, Joe? You do anything fun?
This week I've been working a lot. I think I've worked 6-day weeks like the last month and a half in a row or something like that, right? 2 months now.
That seems right.
Yeah, so that's just a lot of work. Riding the dirt bike as often as I can, and trying to keep the blood pressure up a healthy amount.
You have blood pressure or what?
No. I'd like to have higher blood pressure, not the bad kind, but the kind that means I'm excited or whatever.
Gotcha.
Get the heart rate up, you know.
Oh yeah, that's always good. It's good for the heart.
Yeah,
Did you go riding on Sunday?
I wanted to,
But now,
did not. No,
gotta hit them trails.
I'm going to be hitting trails. This is coming Sunday.
Sunday, after church, I came home, hung out with the wife, and then I decided to do absolutely nothing. So I sat on the couch, and Sunday's my complete rest day. So 6 days a week, I'll go hard as hell, right? Monday's a long day because we've got the podcast at the end of the day after work, whatever other BS we've got during the week. Saturday, usually we're working 12s and whatever afterward. I didn't go to bed till midnight on Saturday because I was working on a couple more things after we got done with all our crap. And then, so Sunday is my complete go to church and do nothing. So from 6:30 to after 9:30, I was laying just on the couch, shooting off text messages, looking at Instagram, and that was it. I was like, I'm just chilling. We're not going to think about chores or anything right now. Mason, are you having a fight with a raccoon in a trash can right now?
No,
Is it
noisy?
That's what it sounds like on our end.
Yes, you've entered the aluminum manufacturing plant.
No, this is actually just what it sounds like when I make love.
To what?
Is it better now?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Now that we're out of your pocket.
What are you
I
doing?
was just making sweet passionate love.
To what? The blender?
Myra. No, Myra.
Oh, that's not good.
Myra right hand.
Oh shit! Does your dog not have a very similar name? That was concerning.
Not Jayla, Myra was the same.
Yeah, it was very close in my mind right now. Too close for comfort.
Get your mind up together, dude.
Where's it supposed to be, bro?
Yeah, that's true.
Oh my gosh. Joe, you were up in Flagstaff last week, right?
This is true.
What were you doing up there?
A lot. One of everything, it seemed like. Just when I thought the day was over, it got longer. And just when I thought longer was long, it got even longer. I helped do everything from make a screen from scratch for a customer to picking up a door panel that had fallen on a gentleman who did not secure it properly while he was working on it.
Nice.
It was a good 6 by 10.
Oh,
Yeah, the guy continued working afterwards, so props to him. But that panel was not light. Took 3 of us to pick it up off of him. He was underneath it for a good minute.
Wild Wild West panel or somewhere else?
Something different.
Midwest?
Did he break anything?
No. Surprisingly enough, he didn't, because it was him and his ladder pinned underneath this door, and he was on the second floor technically of the home, because it was overlooking a balcony, if you will.
Oh my gosh.
About as bad as it could get. This guy got it, and yeah, he got back up and continued working.
Was it the JW door?
No,
What door is it?
a good one.
K-Swiss door?
No, a weird manufacturer.
Okay.
Yeah,
A one-off?
not necessarily, but we've only seen a couple.
Okay.
Yeah, those 10-foot walls, man, that's got to be fun to look at every day.
Yeah, they are fun. Are they fun? Are they as fun to work on?
They're fun taking down, I tell you that much.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty dust-free removal we did there. I feel like we did a pretty good job getting rid of some of that stuff.
Yeah, no, it wasn't dusty at all. It didn't even cross my mind.
Did I tell you guys,
What you were doing.
I've got a master bathroom project I'm working on right now. I believe the ceilings were, what is that, about 12 feet tall, 11 to 12 feet tall, and the closet ceiling height is 10 feet tall. We brought down the bathroom ceiling height to 9.5 feet, not 10 feet, 9.5 feet for no apparent reason that I can figure out. But the big part of it is we're trying to cool the room better by having less volume of air. But my question still goes back to like, I was asking people like, why are we doing 9'6" when the closet's 10? It would just make more sense. Like 10's like a better number, like for your standard ceiling height for that things. And they're like, oh well, the cabinets have already been made. I'm like, well, who on the cabinet side of things was like, oh, let's just make it 9'6", rather than saying let's do a 10-foot ceiling or take into consideration a 10-foot ceiling on all of this.
It goes back to the old adage: 6 inches is still a lot.
It is. It's way bigger than we think.
Yes, 100% of the time. No one has ever seen 6 inches and went, "Dang, that's not enough."
Yeah, that is definitely did not like my 22 and 77-inch height recommendations. You made me change it because they weren't even enough.
No, because it was like 23, and so for the people who don't know about our conversation over the weekend, we're gonna have a video that should be on YouTube here soon to kind of show the progress we're rolling through on Mason's house. But he's got an area. It's like an inset in the wall coming off of the garage. So they were going to do some cubbies and then some shelves along with a couple hooks for the backpacks for the kids. So I was asking like, hey, do you have a height that you want the bottom cubbies to be? And then where do you want the shelves to be up top? And he's like, yeah, I was thinking the bottom one, we could do it like 23 inches and then
22.
Whatever, same thing. And then the shelf for up top, could we put that at 71? I'm like, all right. Well, how about we go like 2 feet, because that's going to be like 24 inches. And why not just do 6 feet, which is 72 inches, which is a 1-inch difference, but essentially just makes it a nice round carpenter's number. He's like, yeah, I guess, I don't know, like, that would work. I'm like, yeah, let's just go with that.
That's just kind of a general number for you. Let's let you work off of that.
Apparently. I still don't know where you got 71. Why? Like, 70 makes sense. 72 makes sense. 71.
I just had Abby stand next to it and then compared it to the old one and what would be a good height for it, and it just came out to 71.
Can she reach it okay?
What?
Does she reach it okay?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, right on.
I didn't take into consideration like I was building it. Otherwise, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah. Hey, look what I did. Hey, that's too tall for me. Uh-oh.
Yeah. So I didn't throw a fit because it was exactly 71.
Yeah.
Tisk.
So, but for everyone who's listening to the podcast, I'm hoping to have the first kind of video up, and it's going to show you the overview of what we're doing. We'll try and, for this next week, have more details of how the stuff was actually put together or torn apart, stuff like that. So I know we went into a little bit of the details. I think for the cubbies, we kind of more just showed the progress. So we'll show like where we put the trim head screws, how we cut everything, and all that good stuff. So I'm going to try and have that video up this week, and then each week as we move towards completion, we'll just keep uploading the next video on top of it.
Nerd video.
Yes. Of us beating your house up with hammers.
I missed that part.
All the noise.
All right, Mason, do you got a bounce?
Yeah, probably I should get back to attending my children.
Make sure they're still alive.
I think so. I don't hear, but they should be alive.
That just means they're sneaking. That means something's going on, actually. You should really go check on that.
They probably broke through that fingerprint lock you got for that pantry of yours.
That's what I'm thinking. The younger one, Cooper, he did say, "Yeah, I can easily get through this." I'm like, "What?" And he runs and just runs into it.
Did it open?
I'll have to go double check.
Relax, sir.
I'll call back in if the house is destroyed.
All
Very
right,
good.
sounds good.
Yeah. All right, fellas.
All right,
Later.
later.
All right, later.
Oh.
He's going to make it. I don't know how much longer, but he'll make it.
No, I know his wife goes out of town for different conferences every once in a while, so he's dadding at a high level now with those two boys. So, yeah. Another story for the people is we went to Home Depot over the weekend, and we're getting all our material to go to Mason's house and get started on that. And we go, or let me start with this. I looked up this paneling that we were going to be doing for the back of those cubbies that I was talking about. It's going to run the height of the whole wall. So I looked it up, wanted to make sure it wasn't just at one Home Depot. It's at, seems like most Home Depots in quantities from like 50 to 70, right? So this isn't like, oh, they just have a couple sheets. We show up at the Home Depot that's closest to Mason's house. And Mason lives in a city that's on the outskirt or the edge of the valley, I'll just say that. And so this is the last Home Depot on the way out there. So we go talk to the gentleman in that section. We're like, hey, we see 2 sheets here. They're a little beat up. And online it said you had 54. Are they in an overhead rack? And he's like, let me check. Joe, you can correct me on this. Did we stand there for like 20 to 30 minutes?
As we shopped around a bit and decided we needed to make more purchases than we needed to. So if it was a sales tactic, it worked. But otherwise, inventory management issue. But they did later call us to let us know they had found them, which is nice.
Yeah, which I will say, kudos to that guy as far as he was determined to find those things. And he was very nice in regards to giving us a call at the end of it. But it was a huge pain in the butt just standing there while this guy runs around the store. And we're like, oh my gosh, where are these stupid panels?
They're right above our heads, not quite under our noses.
Every once in a while, too, they've got stuff where like a truck will show up. So inventory technically is at the store, but it's not on the shelf or in the overhead rack or any of that stuff. So it's like, they're like, oh, yeah, sorry, it's on the truck. You're going to have to wait like a day or so for it to actually be in our active inventory. And it's like, you got to be kidding me.
So working for a company that had to inventory things, there's 2 ways you could do it where I worked. You could either check it all in at the same time and hope that it's correct, so that way you don't have to worry about any sort of discrepancy with the distributor, which in our case was all in-house for the most part, but we acted as if it was a different branch of the company. Or you could scan it all in individually, which is the way you're supposed to do it, so that way you don't accidentally take ownership of something you don't physically have. I never met someone in my life who just accepted all the inventory on the sheet as it was and didn't have a problem. So I made sure everyone scanned everything in it individually because best to know exactly what you have than what you don't have.
How often was stuff missing?
Every single time. And it sometimes...
Okay, how much was missing?
It depends. If it was light enough to fly out of the bed of a truck, that may have been the case. But I mean, there's so many things about that job that made it really interesting. Like the one time, one of our delivery drivers actually set his truck on fire with the stuff he had in the bed of his truck, not paying attention.
How?
Fundamental things. Group 31 batteries for semi-trucks. The posts that actually hook up to battery cables are threaded steel. They're not just cast lead. So what had happened was he's put all these batteries down at the base like you would expect to because they're heavy. They're 40, 50 pounds a piece depending on a couple of variables.
Right.
Well, he put a large brake rotor in a cardboard box on the top of the stack that was the front of the truck. As he accelerated away from the light, the brake rotor slid all the way to the back over top of the batteries. Those threaded studs caught it and made direct contact with the steel rotor, and that set the entire truck on fire. It didn't help that he had aerosol spray paint cans in the bed, which only exploded as they caught on fire, creating a bigger fire, ultimately burning this gentleman's truck down in the parking lot of the store.
Was that at your store?
Yes. Not a good day.
Do you have pictures?
No. I needed to sell that paint to a customer, though, and they were not happy when I didn't have it.
You should have taken a picture, but like, I got your paint, bro.
Oh, yeah, no. Some pictures went out. I don't have any of them with me anymore because that was some odd 4 years ago now, but that was not a good day to be me because I lost all of my flammables on that one truck.
Oh, my gosh. That's insane.
Yeah. As I understand, that guy had a hard time with insurance trying to duke that one out with him.
I don't. Do you remember a driver from the company, the Wild Wild West, right? He was the laziest driver they had, where he would show up and be like, "Okay, guys, unload it," and go sit in his driver's seat and just take a nap.
Yep.
While everyone unloads, while every other driver that I've ever interacted with would at least try and help us, even if he's just checking units off on paperwork. So I got so mad at this dude just because like this became a habit. So we unstrapped our stuff, and the way that the delivery area used to be set up, as you know, the parking lot was sloped. So for us to be able to get the forklift in, to get the platform up there, to remove these units, you'd have to do one side of the truck at a time because it's like an think of like almost like a semi truck with an A-frame on the back of it, so they could park more on one side of the alleyway. We unload half of it, and then they pull forward back in on the other side, so that we could get our forklift to the other side of the truck. So we'd start on the driver's side of the truck, then go to the passenger side, unload all of that. Well, so we started with the driver's side, took the straps off, but I was like, if this dude's just going to sleep in the truck. This is not the first time it happened. Usually I was very professional with like, this dude's being a dumbass, but whatever, I'll clean up after him. That day, I left all his straps just undone, right? So I go, he's napping, head against the window. I go, bro, let's go, let's move. And you could see him just like, all right. So he ends up getting one of his straps stuck underneath the wheel, and it just kind of like starts spinning out because the other half of it was still connected to the truck. So wheel is on top of strap that is connected to truck and trying to drive away. So it starts kind of like smoking this thing out, and then in the end, the whole ratcheting mechanism was all fucked up at the end. And so there was some of his supervisors who the next week, they're like, yeah, we don't know what happened, but he came back and all his stuff was messed up. And I was like, I'll tell you what happened. Homeboy didn't get out of his truck to clean up any of his crap and decided to run over all the straps that were hanging off the truck. So that's why you're going to have to buy all new straps for that truck. And they're like, that mother just... Yeah.
Come to think of it, I haven't seen that guy in a while.
That makes sense.
Yeah. The math is there.
The math is there. All right, should we do this?
Yeah. Let's get hammered.
Just say it like.
Let's get hammered.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sledgehammers in the Office podcast, where we celebrate the heavy hitters on the job site and in the office. Today, I'm joined by Joseph Morris. What are we drinking?
We were drinking, what is this? Ice caffeinated sparkling water. It is, I imagine, just soda. They've rebranded. It's good.
Nice. And as always, Shamrock Farms, chocolate milk, the whole milk, because that's our favorite. Let's take a look at the numbers that we track for the greater Phoenix area on the real estate and then construction side. This is going to give you an idea of what's going on in the market right now. If you're outside of the greater Phoenix area, then I'd say use this kind of as a guideline. But yeah, here we go. We have 8,083 active homes right now. That's going to be down 338 from a month ago. We've closed 5,049, which is down 911 or 911, never forget. In the last month, interest rate 7%, 2x4s 325. That's the same. Plywood 1675. Plywood's been climbing. That's up to 50 from last month. Half-inch 10-foot copper pipe 2781, roughly the same. So that active inventory is holding on like crazy to staying above that 8,000 mark. We'll see if we can drop another 83 off of that by next week or if that's going to hang on. Closed numbers, we saw that creep really close to 6,000 in a 30-day period or a 31-day period, and that's now down to just over 5,000. So I'm interested to see as this inventory is just kind of staying in one spot, do those numbers continue to change? We're rolling into summer. This is the time. People are moving for kids' school, so they're all ready in the fall, things of that nature. And then on top of that, we're waiting to see, I believe it is end of this month that is it Jerome Powell? He's supposed to come out and talk about interest rates, whether or not they're going to raise them by 0.25% or if they're going to leave them where they're at. So those are our numbers for right now. Nothing too crazy on that. I think we do have a median purchase price that we can talk about next time Mason's back, which we have a guest next week. Super excited about that. But let's see. Before we jump into our house for the evening, I just had a couple, I had something that me and my coworker for the general contractor I work for, we ended up working on. So I work for a general contractor that we work in the luxury industry doing remodels. And we had a day that was lighter just because we had gone through and crushed our stuff through earlier in the week. And we decided to try and spend some time trying to brainstorm as far as how can we as a company, be trying to better advertise better, I guess is just the easiest way to say it. So we kind of came up with 3 areas, and this is kind of just, I want to kind of share them just as, one, my thoughts, but I thought also in terms of, I think it's a good idea for if you're a larger construction company that has gotten some traction, which that's what this construction company has definitely done. So we looked at 3 areas. One is going to be social media. The second is going to be integrating Matterport into the website. And then the third is going to be having a quarterly newsletter. So I just thought I'd spend a little time because we've got it on the podcast. We talk about stuff in the construction industry. If you do have a construction company or if you've got a different business, this might apply to it. So this is something that we're doing actively on the Sledgehammers in the Office side as well. So part of this is I was able to steal ideas that we've been using for ourselves and start to just plug it right into what we're doing for the general contractor. So we'll start with kind of social media, and I'll try and run through this quickly so that we don't bore people and they're not tuning out too much. And Joe, feel free to throw in any questions along the way. So social media, everyone knows, for the most part, that's going to be your first impression to someone who looks you up. If someone's jumping on Instagram, someone's jumping on Facebook, which
we're going after that probably age demographic when it comes to social media, right? Because the people in the luxury industry, while yes, you might have some crypto millionaires, those are more the exception rather than the rule. Usually the rule is people who have done well in business, saved a lot of money, they have the means to do it. So they're mostly going to be on Facebook and Instagram. And since they've got a really easy cross integration because they're just a part of the Meta company, that makes it really nice where we can kind of say, hey, this is where we want to start. So particularly for Instagram, you want it to be that when someone opens up your Instagram page, they get a good idea of who you are and what you're about. So for some people, they'll go through and they want to do their before and after photos in some, like a slideshow that you can scroll through. The reason why you don't want to do this is because someone's going to land on your page and see a lot of dated or crappy houses or crappy finishes. If you start with the after picture first, they get, when they see all the tiles on your profile, they get to see all the beautiful things that you've done, and if they want to click into it, they can see what you did or what you were working with before that and how you transformed the space. So that was the first thing. To try and kind of move through this a little quicker, and the other thing is going to be to build a portfolio. So the end goal would be to try and start driving ads to your account. So you can pay for ads, put a geofence on it, say, hey, we're trying to target the Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, Fountain Hills, Cave Creek area. So, but if we were to take even like, we'll take Sledgehammers in the office right now. If I wanted to drive a whole bunch of traffic, even just across the entire valley to Sledgehammers in the office, and they were to pull it up and go, you guys have 4 posts on your Instagram and your Facebook, like it looks like you started yesterday. So that's why what we've been doing, and what I kind of recommend for people if they're going to follow the footsteps that we're walking in right now, is to say plan on 6 months to a complete year of consistent posting. So you're going to want to be posting like once a week, and we're a little behind on this, but the goal is to be posting once a week, and then you can throw some stories in there. But the posts are to be able to bring new people in. Reels especially are going to do this. So that's one of the things we talked about for the general contractor, to say, hey, try and get things that are going to draw people in. To pinpoint that a little farther, you want to then say, okay, a lot of builders are just doing posts. Posts with like a slideshow that you can go through are typically more for an audience that you already have. So Joe follows me on Instagram. He's going to see my post. He'll be able to slide through, see my pictures. That usually doesn't bring a lot of traffic in to your Instagram or anything like that. So what is more feeding that algorithm right now is going to be through videos, particularly what they're calling reels, throwing the captions on there, all kinds of stuff like that. So the way that we do that is almost being in front of the camera, demonstrating high finishes, because for this company, we're trying to really target the luxury community. Now, this is a double-edged sword, because we're working on finishing up a multi-7-figure project, which means there's a lot of high finish items on that project that we'd be able to highlight. We can take a bunch of videos, so do like a whole one day of social media, and then release one video a week or one reel a week for the next several months while we work on our next project. But when we have a customer who lands on our Instagram page, then they get to see high finish items right off the bat. And every week, bam, that's going out to hopefully a new set of lookers or onlookers or leads at that point going forward. So we do that for 6 months to a year. Then we can work on saying, hey, we've got the portfolio. So if we start putting some money into it to where it advertises to people, we get the correct demographic. When they show up at our page, they see, okay, these people are doing high finish stuff, because I can see just, I can start scrolling and yep, all the way through. Questions?
I think not so much questions, but I don't think they'll let you post a video in any other format than a reel anymore, even on Instagram.
Yeah, I think they started to switch that to Facebook too.
Yeah. Social media, dynamic place to advertise, just like you're saying. Got to choose your path on how you do it properly.
Yeah.
It's hard to grow.
And
I don't know much about it.
I think like we talked about with Mason not too long ago, was having your kind of fingers and everything as far as you want to be present everywhere. So have a website, have presence on social media. The part that's going to hurt you, like as a builder, in my opinion, would be is like if you don't post in a very long time, then if you're posting every 3 months on social media, it's kind of like unless it is a super high quality, high traffic video, which most people aren't. They're going to choose, here's a picture of a kitchen, here's a picture of a bathroom, right? And if it's once every 2 to 3 months, you're not going to really build up that viewership base like you want to. All right, let's see. I feel like I had a thought and it just disappeared from my mind. But, we talked about TikTok not wanting to necessarily target like TikTok right now because there's a younger demographic on there. So you've got TikTok, Be Real, and Snapchat for the most part. You're probably not going to find the demographic that the luxury community is targeting on those areas. Now, we've talked about before, there is a large amount of room out there in the building industry just for people who are ignorant and just don't know anything about building. So that is an option too, as far as to say, hey, if I can do good work that might not be luxury finishes, but I just want to target people in general, I would apply the same thing to a TikTok as well. I think Be Real, you probably can't do anything with that. Snapchat, no idea, because apparently I've aged. I'm the bracket right above that. I'm an Instagram person, so old as hell. So the idea that we want with the social media is going to be that's your first impression. If someone goes and they're like, oh, I heard about this company, they might look you up on social media before they go look for your website. With people who are probably, I'd say 30, maybe 30s and older, maybe they look up the website first. But we want, in the end, social media traffic to land people at the website regardless. So regardless if they go there first or second, we want them on the website. Now, this is something we spent some time looking at custom home builders in Arizona. And Joe would recognize some of the names. So we're not going to put them out there because we want to be respectful of them. But the big builders that you and I have worked with, we looked at a handful of their websites. They have beautiful homes on there. One of the things they don't have, though, that we thought would be a very unique addition, and this is Logan Sutton's idea, was doing a Matterport walkthrough of a house. So for people who don't know, Matterport is going to be where you can click through in a house and it takes you step by step. Or the other way would be if you go on Zillow, click into the house, and they've got it where you can just walk through all the rooms virtually. If you go on Google Maps and do the street view and you start clicking around to just kind of push the car down the road, that would be a version of Matterport. So the reason why we thought Matterport was going to be a great idea, especially for the construction industry, when you have high finishes, when you have large houses, is going to be because you can really demonstrate what has happened inside that space, let the people be able to walk or virtually walk around, and on top of that, you don't see, here's a picture of a wall, here's a picture of the kitchen, here's another picture of the kitchen. It's you now put the person who's online in control of what they're looking at from that side of things. This is something we didn't bring up in our meeting, but I feel like might have some relevance, might not, and we'll see how it plays out in the next year or so, is going to be with, we've got Apple coming out with their augmented reality goggles, and we've got Meta who has theirs already. So it seems that more and more we're probably going to go towards that augmented reality. And if we already have the Matterport set up, it's going to be probably a lot easier to integrate Matterport into that virtual reality where they can just be looking through a space with their goggles on and be able to go look at whatever they want to rather than just seeing picture, picture, picture. So it's one of those things that we did not see even some of the very high-end, if they're doing 8-figure custom home builds, people aren't doing that. So there is some costs involved with it, but at the same time, when you're doing an 8-figure build, put that into your marketing spend, and I believe that that's going to be a huge payoff in the end.
I'm learning more about social media right now than I have ever.
All right, let's get to what we talked about in regards to our newsletter. So the reason why we wanted to do a newsletter, and this is kind of coming more from the real estate side of things, is staying in front of our contacts that we've worked with previously. So, Joe, I actually just dropped the newsletter in there if you did want to take a look at it. If not, that's fine. So the reason why we wanted to do this is they did a study for realtors that the bulk of people forget who their realtor was after a couple of years. I forget the exact statistic, but essentially, you work with a realtor, you're going to end up forgetting unless the realtor stays in contact with you. Yes, if you have someone who's working in your house for a longer period of time, for some of our projects, we're there for several months, depending on how big of the scope that we have and how many trades are involved. So you do create that good relationship with people, but it's also good to have that continual touch point. The other part of this too is if you're a scaling company. If you start as a small company, like this is going to be a prime example for us, and we're waiting on a lot of our outward marketing, but this will be something we integrate. Here's why. For Sledgehammers in the Office, we're not doing 7-figure custom builds. We're as a non-licensed company, you're not supposed to take on jobs that are $1,000 or more. That's the rule. So we're going to move on. Anyways, but the idea would be is we want to be able to just it's every quarter have a touch point with our clientele, particularly the previous clientele, to say, hey, here's what we're doing, because we can go from the jobs that are like $1,000 per job to going to the $10,000 to the $100,000 to then hopefully trying to break that 500, a million, and just sky's the limit from there, right? But you let your customers know. Maybe you have a customer or a lead, and at the end of the day, it's like, hey, we're good to do a small section of their house, but they think that we might not be the right company to do like their whole the whole house remodel. But here we come back around. The newsletter is a touch point for them, and they realize in a couple of years, hey, they've built themselves up. They're a large production crew that can come in, do this, bam, knock it out. So you allow for the growth to happen, right? Because when you don't see someone for a long time, you still remember them as the last time you interacted with them. So this newsletter allows you to kind of be more descriptive with, hey, here's where we're at. Here's the other thing. Newsletters and email are not dead. Yes, for a lot of the younger generation, they're going to be. But I think the more that people get integrated with it once they step into the business world, people are still checking their email. There was Cody Sanchez. She's a entrepreneur who's on YouTube talking about a lot of her business stuff. She said that she's got one of her email lists that has a 52% open rate. There's some of these that if they have the right content in there, you can get it to 80 to 90% depending on the content. Some of that is coming from the real estate world with information about their house, valuation, like it's an automated valuation, things of that nature. But what does that say? If we're even taking that low number, it's 1 in 2 people are opening that email. So if you take 1 in 2 of your previous clients are going to open that email every quarter, now you've got a consistent touch point that you can have good quality information in. Moving on with this as well, this is the first time I messed around with it, but I was able to use ChatGPT to write the bulk of the email that I set up. So I asked it to give me like a newsletter for the general contractor's name that I would send out, and they wrote out a whole bunch. I deleted what I didn't need, customized it to our company. It made it a lot quicker, so I'm not sitting there. It's ChatGPT's creating the structure, things of that nature. I then become an editor that goes back and edits it. The second part of it is we want to just also have in there something where we want to have something tangible or something real for the people to show up for. And that's going to be, we did for this one, since it was like trying to simulate like a summer newsletter for Arizona, we have monsoon season that starts in July and rolls through August. And so it was preparing for the monsoon season. a couple tips. So I asked ChatGPT to give me, some seasonal construction tips. It gave me 10. I was able to pull 2 or 3 out of there and then modify them essentially for the monsoon season and then throw that in there. So I don't recommend that be the complete way that you do it every time. I think that it can help give you prompts, but you do want to start storytelling with your newsletter, and then you could have that little blurb at the end in regards to, hey, here's something that you can dive into for the seasonal. If it's, hey, we're going into Christmas, make sure as the temperature starts dropping that you get your heater checked out, that you're covering any exposed pipes, stuff like that. So you have something tangible for them, or not tangible, but like something with real content for the customers to go and look at, so that they don't just go junk mail. On top of that too, the age demographic, like we said, that if you're in the luxury industry, if they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, they're going to be probably more prone to be opening emails, especially as we get to that older age range, rather than be on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. So good touch point, especially for those right there. Another idea I had about this after we put this sample together was even highlighting trade partners. So being able to show, hey, we work with quality people, here's what they look like, so you can have a picture, things of that nature, all that good stuff. So really trying to use that newsletter as a good touch point to say, here's who we are, you've worked with us before, but also here's who we are becoming as well. Last thing before I ask Joe his thoughts is going to be the way that we did this, and the way that I'd almost recommend this for right now at least, is there's going to be a lot of mass emailing services that you can use. One of them is going to be MailChimp. That's a pretty popular one that you'll see a lot of automated business emails come from. The one that we went with is MailerLite. Mail, M-A-I-L, not Miller, like your beer, but that will allow you to set up an account, a free account that can have, I believe, 500 to 1,000 contacts that you can plug in there. So even if you're only doing previous contacts that you've worked with, you can fill up a database with a lot of customers before you're going to run out of room, and then be able to schedule things. So you can have it all. If I wanted to write a fall newsletter that gets released in October, I could write it in September, schedule it for October 1st, and even if I were out of town for October 1st, or if I was taking the day off to spend time with the family because it's a Sunday or something like that, it can still be automated to go out that day. So it makes it really nice. There's templates that you can create inside of there, and like I said, it's free. There are paid versions that you can get into, but it would be something too that to say, hey, you have to do it one time, and then it can go out to everyone. You don't have to go, Dear John Smith, write a full letter to each person, send it. Dear Jane Doe, write a full letter and send it to that person, right? It's just it will auto-populate for you and send it out. So we want to start looking at what are things that we can do once and reach a whole bunch of people, and also be able to do on a flexible time frame. And so these mass email sites are going to allow you to do that. And when it's all free, you've got a free advertising platform that's going to allow you to reach a lot of people at a convenient time. So those are the 3 things we brought up in our meeting to the general contractor. We're doing a follow-up meeting in regards to trying to sharpen that all up, what the other people are thinking about in the company in regards to all of that. So but Joe, when you hear me kind of spout all this off, we didn't talk about this before the podcast, so this is your first time hearing it. Do you have any thoughts, any criticisms, any things that you're like, hey, here's how we could take this further, or even questions in regards to a lot of words that I just spat out?
So the only difficulty is what I can relate to, I guess, necessarily, because I don't think I've ever paid anyone to do anything in my life. Like, there have been specific instances of, like, a single job or something, whether it be a car or whatever, but I don't know what it's like to hire somebody to do something. So that's kind of where I feel like the disconnect is. So I don't know what it is to keep up with somebody outside of, like, friends, because the people who I have employed to do something has just been like, hey, this one is a little bit on my wheelhouse. Can you do this clutch service? Like, mainly because convenience of time. The 6-hour job under my own roof sounds terrible. I'm going to go give this guy $500, and I'll get my car back probably a lot sooner and in more of a singular piece than if I were to do it for pretty much the same amount of money said and done. So I really don't know what it is to communicate with a provider of any sort of service or labor, because I've never paid anyone to do anything that wasn't a friend, I guess.
Yeah.
So a lot of it I don't have much input on, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, but one of the things that did get brought up at our meeting that day was they were waiting for some logo changes that happened at the beginning of this year before they wanted to do some other social media stuff that we're not going to get into. But they had mentioned part of their conversation was to outsource a social media company to handle some of the Instagram, Facebook, things of that nature. So this is going to come from the experience of being on the real estate side. And I've talked about this before on the podcast. Now I will continue to harp on it for a long time. There are a lot of people that prey, in my opinion, on the ignorance and the scarcity of some leads, or the scarcity in some of real estate, right? There's too many real estate agents that in some cases, like Mason's a great real estate agent because he has the volume that can support him and his family. Other times there's a lot of agents out there who are trying to just get a couple leads every year that convert. They're trying to figure out, how do I advertise better? And when you don't know anything about advertising, which I've learned a couple things not to do the wrong way, people will come and tell you like, hey, we'll take care of all your social media posting that's going to be consistent, so it's going to make you stand out from every realtor. There was a newsletter that was going to be put out for me, all kinds of stuff like that. It's a generic thing. I got very upset with them because I talked about on here before, when I made a good amount of money, I decided, hey, I'm going to try and reinvest in this money to try and keep this business wheel turning, put it with the wrong advertising group. And some of the stuff they were putting out, I ended up calling them. I'm like, this is not what I would say. So I'm like, we're canceling this. And I had a year-long subscription, so like, you can't. But there's certain things like that. So going back to, there's social media people who will look at the ignorance of people in a certain area and say, I can do that for you, and then automate it. They'll have a July 4th post with the flag, a Memorial Day post that says, like, they're thankful for the people that have given the ultimate sacrifice, if it's like Labor Day or whatever it is, right? If it's a summer, it might be a picnic basket and stuff like that. It's like, and then you just get the generic pictures of a house, which is going to be the shower, and then this and that. It's like, there's no content that they're posting at all. You would need someone who's doing your social media to understand the brand of your company. So if someone were to come in and say, hey, I'll do the branding for the stuff on Sledgehammers in the office, my question is going to be, what are you going to be posting? Because the people that are interacting with the stuff that we actually touch in the houses that our customers actually live in is us. Unless that person is coming out there and taking pictures, they don't have them. We could send them to that person, but then the messaging still has to be correct. What kind of messaging do we want to have as a company? What kind of clientele are we targeting? Because going back to, I work for a general contractor that works that goes after a high-end clientele, because that's the type of finishes we provide. We provide high service, all kinds of stuff like that. So if you have someone who's like, let me just get you more leads, it's like, no. Because then you're going to make the owner who's in charge of sales bogged down filtering through crap that you're just sending him. So that's where it needs to be. The people who are in charge of the social media and marketing need to understand what's the message that's going out. That's why, in my mind, it would be very important, especially for a small company, not to have to pay ignorance dollars to someone to try and say, hey, I'll run your social media for you, things of that nature. The newsletter, like I said, it goes back to, once again, what are we trying to communicate to our customers? If we just do a generic blurb about construction is great, and it kind of goes into the ChatGPT thing where it's like, hey, let ChatGPT give you your structure, but put the content in there that is specific to your company. Because if not, then people will just be junk mail. Please do not send me another email like this. So yes, we want to be able to streamline things. I want the flexibility of when that email gets sent, that if I write it once, I can get it to a lot of people, but the content still needs to be good, and the messaging and the voice still needs to be from the people who understand what that messaging and voice is. So in the end, it's these three things that we tried to present are things that do not require a lot of extra workload or an extra employee. It's more just saying, hey, someone needs to allocate a little bit of their time along the way, or everyone needs to allocate a little bit of their time along the way to get these things done. So I think in some ways we haven't done the best job with Sledgehammers in the office just yet, as far as showing, hey, like, here's what this looks like. But that's what we're doing. We're going to try and have the video series with Mason's House, and over time we're going to try and sharpen that skill, get better at communicating on all of that, because we want to be able to show people, hey, here's what it looks like to have your voice as a construction company, to be able to put yourself out there, how to market correctly, and make sure that that message is heard, that here's who we are, here's what we can do, here's the clientele we service.
Yes. But like you're saying, I think the further you can, the better you can narrow down how you reach out to people, and you can kind of establish your clientele, the people you want to deal with. You can only be more successful from there.
Right.
Because once you start impressing the people, you want to be, you want to be impressed by what you do, and the more they talk, and the more things get around, the better off you are.
Right. Because we can even take the flip side of that coin to, like what you're saying, that if you're advertising a lot of luxury items on your social media, and you start getting a lot of luxury customers, but that's not the type of company that you are, and you're not familiar with all the high-end finishes, you might find yourself in deep water where you're taking on a lot of jobs that you're not ready for. So it might be that, hey, you do a great job with kind of middle class or upper middle class renovations, doing kitchens, bathrooms, whatever, all that good stuff. And it's like, know your audience, know your voice, and know where you're trying to go. If you're in the upper middle class and trying to get to the luxury community, then yes, like, do the homework on your part, start to advertise towards that part, because that's where you want to go. But in the end, if those three things can be helpful to anyone who is listening to this in regards to how you want to treat your construction company, I would encourage you guys to think through what that looks like for your company. Put that in the calendar, execute on it, do not ignore it. And like we said, if the newsletter is once a quarter, that's a very little that's very low effort for you. The social media, posting once a week, once you get in the rhythm and get more comfortable with, okay, I'm on camera, it's not that big of a deal. But like we said, you want to have your fingers in everything. So have a website, have a social media presence, have a newsletter, and then have your whole fist through one area. So if that's just going to be, hey, we work on referrals, if we work on social media, whatever it is, make sure that you find your avenue and really just swing for the fences. Should we go over our house real quick before we close it out?
Yes, sir.
All right. I got to pull it up on my end.
Hurry up.
All right. I think I got it right here. You want to tell the people what we are looking at?
We're looking at a home, 3-bed, 2-bath. Asking on this is $515, 1,200 square foot, maybe just a hair under 13 at $1,282. We're looking at $400 a square foot. Insane HOAP, built in '96. It is a condo. It's labeled as an apartment on Zillow, but this is a $10,000 price cut 2 months ago. So they are trying to move this unit. Yeah.
You want to roll through the pictures and tell them what you see for the people who are on audio, and then we don't have it popped up for the people on YouTube just yet.
So the first picture you see on this one is going to be of the living room / kitchen, and I think you can see a bedroom kind of in the background. Being that it was built in '96 and that it is a condo, it looks like there's some load-bearing walls potentially kind of throughout. It is multi-story. I think it is a 2, 4, maybe 3. I've been trying to dive through the pictures as I go. There's a lot of really interesting drywall features. I feel like the sink is in a unique spot, just compared to what I'm used to seeing now. We have a decent amount of windows and walls. It looks like most of these units are active.
Talk to me about the kitchen.
Let's go back to the kitchen. So we get in there and we're just seeing some of the old original cabinetry work. Nothing looks like it's too particularly new. Not that it's in bad condition, but it looks like maybe it's seen some new hardware over the years. Nothing stands out. We have a upgraded stainless steel refrigerator. I don't know how long ago that was done. The stove does look kind of new. It looks like they did full stainless appliances throughout the house. Stainless sink as well. They've got that light unit that looks like a single LED, perhaps.
All right, moving on. Let's hit the bathroom as well, real quick, to kind of give people an idea of what they're dealing with, and then maybe talk about size of the bedrooms.
So we're looking at photo number 9 for the bathroom. From what I can see, it looks like they were trying to blend the countertop to the tile work. They've got some weird diamond-shaped tile work right about chest level. Below that, they've got their really small, like 1 by 1 inch tiles, and they go down to a traditional tile layout. Just vertical, nothing super fancy going on there. There's a window in the bathroom, which is nice. I don't see anything that stands out particularly well. It is a very generic home built in the 90s. Moving into the bedrooms, we're seeing a lot of carpet. The overall size of the bedroom seems kind of small, and there's a lot of walls that maybe don't feel so necessary. Like I said, though, very well could be a lot of load-bearing walls. Some of these do look really narrow, so maybe not so much on some of these.
That, and you also have to remember you're only working with like 1,300 square feet.
Yeah, very, very, very small areas, it feels like. For the price point, at least in my opinion. See, nothing in particular really stands out as like a positive thing to me when I look at this for that price point. Everything seems super tight, super narrow. The bedrooms don't feel that large. I mean, maybe a couple hundred square foot. We're getting into apartment tier size things here. For something that has a 2-car garage, it does make some sense. I just don't see this being a super comfortable living situation for a long-term scenario, if you will.
And the big thing, looking at this, especially for Arizona, the thing that's going to carry this is the Scottsdale city address on there, right? So that's going to jump you up considerably. If you were to bounce out to the west side in Avondale, you could find something. Goodyear, sorry, there's 515 house, so the same price, that is
probably double the square footage.
I think it's 1,800 square feet, 1,800 plus. If you go out to Surprise, you can find stuff that is mid 2000s, things of that nature. So it is Scottsdale. And I'm not going to say, oh, it doesn't matter. No, that does matter. That does carry a lot of weight. That
is a huge factor in Arizona because Scottsdale is as close to a capital city as you can get for the state. I know Phoenix technically is, but Scottsdale is the cream of the crop when it comes down to quality and cost, unfortunately. Everything that happens here that's quiet and nice. It's the city you go to when you want to see things and have a good time for the most part.
Right.
Outside of partying, which actually, you know what? Old Town, good spot for that.
Yeah. So looking at the description of the house, and I don't mean to be bagging on this too much. This is going to be more just a builder's eye when we're looking at it. It says the condo's been remodeled and it looks like a model. Recently replaced AC unit, which we didn't see any pictures of the AC unit, but we'll take them at their word for that. Window treatments, cabinet, granite countertops in the kitchen, dishwasher, washer, dryer, refrigerator, garage door, opener, all that good stuff. So the list goes on. When we're looking at the photos, and this is going to be, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. When I look at this kitchen, I see a lot of the light brown oak look to it. There's a lot of light brown in the countertops with the veining, things of that nature. All of that screams to me early 2000s.
They didn't want to get away from the tile in the bathrooms, I feel like, and they're trying to tie into some of that tile work.
Right. So it's either that, or if we wanted to even say, okay, did they update the bathrooms, which they do look clean in here, and pictures can be deceiving, we understand that. So, but everything looks very clean from this house. If those are new bathrooms that they've redone, that's awesome. But here's my thing, and this is not a slight on the realtor. This is not their fault in any way, and I don't want to be too nitpicky with the customer as far as when I look. If I were to look at this as a person who's shopping for this house does not scream newly remodeled to me. It screams 2010 or older, and a lot of that's just going to come from the color selections in the place. So if these are color selections that the homeowner loved or whoever built the place loved, perfect, absolutely, I get it. But this is where we do want to pay attention to, hey, how long am I going to live in a house? When do I expect to sell it? And should my taste be dictated by that a little bit? You'll see in the series that we're going to do for Mason's house, we took a closet out of one of the bedrooms. What does that mean? That means technically that bedroom is no longer a bedroom. But he's told us that he plans on being there for quite a long time. So that might be where he raises his boys, and that means that they've got over 10 years left before they'd be out of the house. So in that case, he's not worried about, oh, I'm going to be selling in a couple of years, that's going to hurt my valuation because I don't have enough bedrooms compared to what someone might be looking for. So if you're in a situation where you are going to be just a couple of years in and you're choosing color selections, try and choose something that's a little more tasteful, a little more modern, because even if we give them the benefit of the doubt, this is all new, it looks older than what newly remodeled should be.
In our eyes.
Yes.
See, one thing that does catch me way off guard, and one of the things that doesn't scream newly remodeled, is you look at fundamental things that you would expect to see with a remodeled home. Look at the ceiling fan in the first photo.
Let me get back. 123.
You go to 1.
There we go.
Now, for the realtor's sake, they did remember to turn it off. Good for them.
Yeah.
But what do you think when you see that ceiling fan? Because I think, like, grandma's house. Like, I remember those.
Yeah. So, and I feel like, once again, that goes back to, oh, wow, that's just a white.
Yep.
Oh. So, and that's, like, okay, this is something I feel like maybe we could help people out with just our eyes in regards to the construction sides of things to help people when they're looking to sell their houses, is you can buy a fan for under $200, throw it up there, and really change the space from this looks like a fan you'd find in an apartment building that someone just needed to throw a new one in there because the old one broke. It's just white. It looks old, like he said. I'd find it in my grandma's house. It's like, get a newer fan, something that matches the colors of the area, but also is modern. You could do the same thing with the chandelier that's in there. Get a more modern chandelier. There are certain things for just a couple $100 that you could do facelift-wise that you have a handyman come in and do that can really boost the value of the house you're trying to sell very quickly. Same thing with plumbing fixtures. You could do new faucets that are black, doorknobs, door handles, things of that nature. So will these cost some money? Yes. And you will need some of that up front. You might be able to structure something to have them paid out through the proceeds of the house if you have enough equity in it. Wonderful. But this house has been sitting on the market for 83 days now. And yes, the market is in a weird spot because of interest rates, things of that nature. But at the same time, it does seem conflicting from the eyeball test to what they're saying in regards to newly remodeled and the eyeball test saying, I don't think so.
How vague the word newly is used. Because it could mean, 4 months ago, or it could mean last month, it could mean almost a year ago. But that's all relative to the age of the house being built, depending on certain people.
There is so much stupid liberty that realtors and real estate companies or people who interact with them can take with some of these things. If it's been remodeled in the last 2 years, it's newly remodeled. And that's kind of like, sometimes it's kind of ridiculous where it's like, come on, like it's been well lived in for us to call it newly remodeled at that point. But in the end,
there's a customer for this house who may just want exactly this. And you know what? Props to them if this is what they're looking for,
yep.
And that's in their price range. But me, individually, personally, when it comes right down to brass tacks, this dollar amount for this place, for the reasons they want it, I feel like is maybe not reasonable.
And I did a quick look at it is a program called Monsoon. This allows us to take a look at public records for the deed, who's bought the homes previously, and they'll also pull up rough comps for us. And I think we've talked about this before. When we want to dive into in-depth comps for a house, we're going to actually do a full-on search. But this gives us our rough comps. And looking at the rough comps, I do not see a single house, or I should say condo, in the area that is $515,000 or more. This is going to be saying these are places sold in the last 6 months, located within 2 miles. We're ignoring the lot square footage. Stories plus or minus 1, so it could be a 2-story, built within 10 years, and the building square footage plus or minus 13%. So all of that to say, I just said a lot of things right there. We were pretty lenient with the comps that we were putting into this thing, and the calculations that this gave us on the average is going to be like 430 to 450. And they're trying to sell it for 515. They had originally listed it for, let's take a look, originally listed for 550. So we've talked about before, this could be a function of the seller saying, this is what I want to get out of it, or this is what I need to get out of it based on the amount of times that they may have refinanced, things of that nature. So we might just have a good realtor who's trying to help out and be like, okay, I'm following the direction of my clients. But in the end, we do think that this is priced a little on the high side. If this is something that you guys would want to take a look at, because it is a place that is available in Scottsdale, you're looking for a condo, you want to talk to a realtor in regards to saying, hey, you guys pointed out some valid things, but I would still be interested in it, feel free to get in contact with Mason. He'll walk you through the comps. Hey, here's what I think it's actually worth. Like we said, all the pictures looked clean, but it looked like it wasn't recently remodeled. If you are looking for something that maybe has a little more Southwest vibe, you might feel like you're seeing that in this house. So reach out to Mason. He'll walk you through it. Ask for the address from the podcast, and he'll get that sent over to you.
Please don't waste his time for the comedic value of it.
Or do waste his time, because it'd be one of the first reach outs for the podcast.
This is true. You know what? Maybe someone wastes his time once.
Yeah. All right, Joe. Anything else for the evening?
I think that kind of wraps it up for me, man.
All right. Where can they find you?
Search it _there for all kinds of shenanigans. Mostly dirt bike, car, yada yada, personal stuff. I don't know.
Cool. Mason Oxendale, you can find him at Mason_Oxendale or something like that.
We should probably have asked him about that, huh?
Yeah. Listen to the other episodes.
Yeah.
And then you can find what we're doing in construction at SITO_building. We have been building out our portfolio on there. We're trying to hit our 6 months like we talked about earlier, so that we could start driving traffic once we have the license, once we have a portfolio that's built up of what we can do, all that good stuff. So until next time.
I hope your hammer stays accurate.
Your Wi-Fi fast.
And your work blessed.
See you, everybody.
Blah, blah. Mason does it better than I do.